All donations go towards Dana-Farber, will help with the care. And now we have two very special guests. George Bellecci alongside Travis Thomas back with you live from the Fenway Park Centerfield Concourse. And we have two good friends of us and powerful testaments of what Dana-Farber does. Chuck Stravin to my left, Kayla Stravin, his daughter, to our right. Chuck, we want to start with you. You're a living testament of what Dana-Farber can do because you're living with stage 4 kidney cancer right now. Before we get to what your journey has been, I want to start with how important it was that you got the diagnosis, because there's an annual checkup, what it sounds like, with your primary care physician that led to you discovering that you have a tumor.
First off, guys, thanks for having us. This is an amazing, amazing job you guys have been doing the last 2 days, and it's critical. I think my case, I'm living proof for why we're doing what we're doing the last 2 days. It was an incidental finding. I had blood in the urine. My wife and I and the other girls were headed down to Parents Weekend to see Kayla down at Stonehill her senior year. I ran into the house, had some blood in the urine, immediately followed up with my primary care, Dr. Christina Iacobo at the Brigham. The doctor covering for Dr. Iacobo that weekend thought it was just a urinary tract infection. I had been battling a really bad cold. And she said, lay low. So I got to stay home and watch football all weekend while Liz and the other girls went down to Stonehill with Kayla. And I'll never forget, we were right in the middle of budget season. I went into the office early Monday morning, and Liz and I debated Sunday night when I went to bed, do I follow up, don't I? Because I only had blood in the urine twice that weekend. And sure enough, Monday morning, I went in early to work on the budget. I made myself a note to call Dr. Iacobo. Around 8 o'clock, as her office opened, I started to pick up the office phone. My cell phone rang, and it was her. And she said, "You called here over the weekend? What's going on?" And I explained the symptoms, and I explained what we were finding and feeling. And sure enough, she had me come over, ran a battery of tests, and at 6 o'clock that night, she called and said, "Chuck, I have some worrisome news. We need to move really fast. You have a major tumor on your right kidney." And October 25th, a day that changed all of our lives, I'll never forget it. We moved really fast, had the kidney removed in December with a radical nephrectomy, a robotic surgery where they removed my kidney. I was back to work in 6 weeks and thinking I was cancer-free. And I was assigned Dr. Tony Sherreri as follow-up on the medical oncology side. Tony put me immediately into a trial post-op to see, if there were any floating cells within the system. Let's try to manage it. And we went about a year. We went about a year thinking that I was cancer-free. And unfortunately, in 2017, we saw multiple nodules in both lungs starting to move and starting to grow and develop. And in 2018, had a wedge resection of my upper left lung where we removed some of the lung. We went another 4 or 5 months thinking we got that, and it popped up again, and I'm battling a very aggressive form of renal cell that's now in both lungs, stage 4. But thanks to all of the great work and all the great research at the Dana-Farber, I'm still standing here 7+ years in. And for those that know the history of renal cell used to be a death sentence. For guys like me, 10 years ago, you wouldn't make the 5-year mark. And we're approaching the 7th anniversary in October. And I put together a bucket list that night when I was diagnosed. That night I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Liz looks at me and she says, "What's going on?" And I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm putting together a list of things that cancer is not going to get in the way of. Wow. And that's seeing, as the father of 4 daughters, 4 amazing daughters, that was seeing all 4 girls graduate from high school, that was seeing all 4 girls graduate from college, walking all 4 girls down the aisle, having grandkids, celebrating my 25th anniversary with Liz, celebrating our 30th anniversary, and 7 years in, all 4 high school graduations are down. Wow. 3 out of the 4 colleges are down. Megan goes into junior year at Holy Cross. Kayla and Jimmy got engaged on January 1st, so we're planning a wedding at the end of the year. And then ultimately grandchildren will come, hopefully grandsons.
There you go.
Liz and I celebrated our 25th anniversary in the middle of this, and our 30th is coming up. So it's all about those bucket list items. But none of that would be possible without the amazing work of all the folks at the Dana-Farber.
Living testament, no question.
Living
Kayla,
proof.
We hear your dad talk, and we're all moved by it. But you were moved in a specific way to pursue this as a career. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, so I am now an account manager working on the philanthropy communications team with Dana-Farber. I started back in January, and I think a couple of things between my dad's journey and, through COVID. I think that really helped us to just reevaluate, what's important, what really matters, am I making a difference, and, some long hours at my previous role, and, at the end of the day, kind of realizing, is there more? Is there something else I could be doing to really make a difference? And I was never going into the lab to find the next trial or the next cure, but I can do what I can through this role to really work with patients and lift them up and tell their stories and help bring in that funding that we know is so critical to make a difference and hopefully someday avoid a family like ours going through what we've been going through the last 6 years.
Kayla, thank you for what you're doing. A huge change in a career path, but also I can only imagine how proud that made you when
Guys,
she came to you and said, I want to go work at Dana-Farber.
I'll tell you, again, all 4 of our girls are amazing. As a girl dad, I've had so many, just fun moments as a dad. I know I drive them crazy, but when Kayla approached Liz and I last fall and said, hey, there's an opening at the Dana-Farber, I think I want to go for it. And when I heard her explain why, there are very few times as a parent if you did a good job raising your kids. That was one night where Liz and I went to bed and we looked at each other and we were like, yeah, she gets it. And again, like as she explained to me that night, she said, Dad, we've learned so much. The Dana-Farber means so much to us. It has. I've been there every 2 weeks, so it has become an extension of our family. And for her to tell us that night that she wants to share with other families what we've been through and help them. This kid's going places. I've said to her, she's my mini-me. I've said to her that at some point I will work for her. She will be my boss someday. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, yep, she gets it. And it will bring tears to my eyes if I keep going, but it was a very proud moment for all of us. And again, I've had so many moments where I'm proud of all 4 of my daughters, but that was just one of those nights where you were like, yep, that kid gets it. And you know what, good for her. I hope she gets it. And there was such pure excitement in the house. So we found out in early December that she was down to one of the final 2 candidates.
Wow.
We found out right before Christmas that she got the job. Christmas came early when Kayla got the offer from the Dana-Farber, and it's been to see her excitement and to see the passion that she brings to it. It's a great moment. Yeah, Travis.
Chuck, now we have about 2 minutes left.
Yep.
I have to get the story you told me off camera.
Absolutely.
So you have a long time. You and your family have a long time relationship.
We have unfortunately we have a long-term relationship with the Dana-Farber. So. I've married into the Tolan family, and my wife's cousin's son, Patrick White. Anybody associated with NESN will remember Pat. Pat was a young boy, came up with cancer back in 1999. I'm not even going to get the kind of cancer that he had. Pat fought valiantly from 99 to 2005. Pat is the first grandchild on the Tolan side of Kayla's generation. Pat was a special kid. And Barbie and Paul, Katie and Megan, this one's for you guys because Pat, as I said to Paul in a text yesterday, Pat lives with us. And Pat was, just the poster child for the Dana-Farber and for the Jimmy Fund. And I'll never forget, he and TC had a really special relationship. So we've been fans of NESN. We've been fans of the Jimmy Fund Telethon for multiple years. I'll never forget the rain delay in 2004 where TC did something really unique. He pulled Pat up into the booth. And during a rain delay, he had Pat hosting. And here's a 14-year-old kid hosting with Tom Caron. It was unbelievable. And he's as sick as a dog. That night, Pat predicted that the Sox were going to win the World Series. And TC busted his chops. He's like, no, there's no way. They exchanged phone numbers. When the Sox won the World Series, who calls TC that night but Pat White?
Wow.
And Lisa Sherbath will remember this because Lisa was one of Pat's best resources at the Dana-Farber. So Pat got to ride the duck boats, and shortly after, in 2005, Pat unfortunately passed away. His grandfather, Franny Tolan, who we loved, passed away of cancer. Cancer has touched so many of us. I mean, I think over the last year of 4 people, my buddy Stephen Ettridge, Jim Comber, a former coworker, Dave Giroux, recently just passed away. A former coworker who I also saw at the Dana-Farber, Larry Griffin, passed away. That's 4 folks within the last 12 months since I was on air with Greg Hill a year ago that cancer has affected their lives. That's why we have to find a cure. What we're doing today, we're never going to have enough. We just need to keep going. Yep. And guys, one frightening statistic for me is that in 2015, when I was diagnosed, on a federal basis, 0 federal dollars went to kidney cancer.
Wow.
When I was diagnosed, my primary care said, unfortunately, it's kidney cancer. They don't know enough. It's the 6th most prevalent cancer in men, the 9th most prevalent cancer in women. It kills 40 of us a day. And unfortunately, we don't know enough about it. It's not researched enough. So that's why we're here. And I want to implore, here's my call to action. For all the girl dads out there, for all the guys like me that have the joy of raising daughters, please, please, please step up over the next, whatever we have left, the next 10 or 11 hours. Because what we're doing here today, I'm living proof. I've exhausted all standard of care options. For us, it's all about trials. And in order for me to see the remaining college graduation, in order for me to see the remaining weddings and ultimately grandchildren coming into the family, it's all about research, because at some point this trial will run out and we'll be on to the next option. Last year alone, from when I was on the radio with Greg and team to now, we went through 4 different protocols. I felt like Goldilocks. This one was too hard, this one was too soft. And luckily enough, we found a stage 1 trial at the end of the year that I jumped into in January. And the good news is, the tough part has been, it's been a grind on the side effect side. But the good news is, we went almost 18 months without hearing reduction. We finally heard reduction in some scans. And again, I know it's not going away. We're trying to manage it like we're managing blood pressure and things like that. But, that's just, again, to all the girl dads out there, please call that number, send in donations electronically, text K-Cancer, because what we do over the next 2 days is so critical. And why am I so passionate about this? And Kayla and Liz and the girls know this. I want to put us in a position where the next 48-year-old guy who has 4 kids doesn't go through what we've had to go through this last 7 years. It's weird, right? And I've said to Kayla, Mary Beth, Colleen, and Megan all the time, we're not going to sit and whine about this. We're not going to ask why me. We're Stravin strong. We're going to keep pushing through. Cancer started the fight. We're going to finish the fight, and let's just do what we can. So that's why I'm passionate on the advocacy side. And, the bucket list hasn't stopped. I continue to add to that.
Let it keep growing.
I'm doing a lot of advocacy with KidCan. Dr. Sherreri and I have spoken at the Harvard Medical School talking about patient centricity. And, again, research will allow guys like me to hang around and drive kids like Kayla crazy for hopefully many, many, many more years. And, it's cool. What she did to take the role at the Dana-Farber, and then to follow that up a couple of weeks later with getting engaged. And, she and Jimmy are planning a bang-up wedding for the end of the year. It's all stuff that we just keep adding to the bucket list.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for sharing
George, thank
story.
you. Travis, man, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Having us.
Thank you for being amazing people. Thank you for everything you're doing at Dana-Farber. And Chuck, keep fighting, brother.
Thanks, brother.
You're a living testament of the power here. And like he said, all the money going towards Dana-Farber, you can raise it. 877-738-1233.